Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson, and welcome back to the Spider-Verse Retrospective. So, we've looked at the Vault of Spiders tie-ins to Spider-Geddon, we've looked at the Spider-Force tie-ins to Spider-Geddon, and we've looked at the Spider-Girls tie-ins to Spider-Geddon. I think it's time we check in and see what the main universe Peter Parker was doing as all this crazy shit was going down as we go to the Spectacular Spider-Man tie-ins to Spider-Geddon. More specifically, Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, which is, yeah, the name of the book. And, of course, unlike all the other Spider-Geddon trade collections, this one is actually collected in a trade for, well, the Spectacular Spider-Man comics themselves. See, even says Spider-Geddon down here, which, little side tangent, isn't it a little strange that the original Spider-Verse story was told in the pages of the Amazing Spider-Man comics, and yet the tie-in to Spider-Geddon is in the Spectacular Spider-Man comics? It's strange is all. I mean, it's the same Spider-Man at the end of the day. Sorry, Chinny just jumped off the bed. It's just, it feels a little weird to see that ultimately, it's just kind of weird to see that it's not, like, consistent between the books. And it's the same way when we get to other comics later on. It's not a big deal. It's just something I wanted to comment on. But either way, like I said, this is what the main universe Spider-Man was doing as all the crazy shit was going down with the Inheritors and the two Spider armies. So, was he up to no good? Well, we already kind of know what happened, but either way, it's time we actually learn some specifics about Peter's ordeal as we kick things off with Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man number 311. So, to recap. So, after the Inheritors had managed to revive themselves via Otto's cloning technology on Earth 616, one of the first Inheritors that was brought back, namely Morlun, had essentially very much gone, fuck this noise, and went off to go do his own thing. And as they said in Spider-Geddon, that own thing was hunting the main universe Peter Parker because, well, he's got a kind of score to settle with the guy. After all, counting the previous Spider-Verse event, Morlun has faced Spider-Man at least 3 times, and every single time, Peter manages to best him. The first time Peter managed to essentially poison Morlun's food, so to speak, and so when Morlun tried absorbing his life force, he got a hefty dose of radiation, which left him weak enough to be killed. The second time they fought them, Peter was in the process of bonding with the other, and the other just straight up wiped Morlun out. Then the third time they fought was during Spider-Verse, and that, of course, and as you know, that ended with Morlun and his family being trapped on Earth 3145. Essentially, Morlun thinks the scales are a little unbalanced, so to speak, and so he just wants vengeance. He wants to take Peter down by any means necessary, and so after he abandons his family to go as they go and do their whole conquering thing for Earth 616, he ends up hijacking a plane and going straight for New York. And yes, I do mean he hijacks a plane, takes out the security guards, threatens the pilot, and then once they get close to New York, he kills the pilot and then just jumps out into the bay while the plane crashes. So yeah, Morlun's very much dedicated. But in the meantime, as he's doing that, we then cut to, well, Spider-Man, as he's just, doing his regular Spidey thing, kicking ass, fighting bad guys, stopping robbers, all that normal thing. And basically, he's basically been pulling an all-nighter. In fact, when we finally do check in on him, he's just captured a bunch of bank robbers who are dressing up as old cartoon characters. So he's pretty much just ready to turn in for the night and, just kind of, just catch some Z's, so to speak. However, it was a long night, so even by the time he wraps things up and then starts swinging back to his apartment, he's just feeling fatigued, and even he can notice that the sun is starting to come up, so he knows that even if he does manage to get some kind of sleep, it's not going to be for a while. And on top of that, his fatigue is so great that he kind of thinks that maybe it isn't safe to be web-slinging like this, so maybe he should just get a cab. However, those thoughts wound up getting put on hold as his spider sense starts triggering, and a cab is literally just thrown at him. Thankfully, he's able to web it up before it ends up crashing into anything and even saves the cab driver. But as Peter asks him what the heck happened, his spider sense is triggered again, and a mail truck gets thrown at him. He manages to stop it before it does any damage, but he starts wondering what the heck's going on. And sure enough, there's Morlun, who is very much ready to kick Peter's ass. Peter immediately just goes on the offensive because It's Moreland. He knows that if he doesn't wreck this guy's shit, he's gonna wreck his, and so the pair of them end up getting into a little battle, which sadly is very much one-sided. Moreland is just whooping Peter's ass, knocking him aside, and any throws that Peter tries getting at him, he just expertly dodges, and it's clear, and even Peter realizes this is not going to be a fight he can win very easily. As such, while he manages to blind Moreland with some webbing and get away, sorry, hold on a second. Sorry about that, Chindy was where she shouldn't be. But yeah, basically, Spidey manages to swing away after blinding Moreland, but he quickly realizes he can't win this fight, so he knows that he needs backup. And of course, since Moreland was supposed to be trapped on Earth 3145, Peter's immediate concern is maybe he should just call the Web Warriors, since, you know, they're the multiversal spider team, so why not so maybe he should get help from them. But the only problem is, he doesn't have his dimensional watch, and it's back at his apartment, a place that he does not want Moreland to know the location of. So he instead calls a friend, and that friend is J. Jonah Jameson. And I'm just gonna say this right now. Basically, around the time that this comic had taken place, J. Jonah Jameson was very much aware that Peter Parker and Spider-Man were one and the same person. And to my knowledge, I think it stayed that way in the comics for quite some time. In fact, I think it's still canon, even nowadays, that Jonah knows that Peter is Spider-Man. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually like this development. While Jonah is always going to be in the whole, when it comes to, like, the greater Spider-Man mythos, to be that antagonistic force that always just hates on Spider-Man no matter the continuity, I like the idea of him actually becoming Peter Parker's ally. Because the thing is, once Jonah knows that Peter Parker and Spider-Man are one and the same, it doesn't actually taint his opinion of Peter Parker. Rather, it improves his opinion of Spider-Man. There's still some tension between them, as even when Jonah learned that Peter and Spider-Man were one and the same, they did still get into some verbal bouts and so forth, but basically, being let in on the secret allowed Jonah and Peter to kind of further expand their friendship. It kind of made them tighter. And while Jonah still kind of rolls his eyes at stuff that Peter does, he also does his best to support him, keep his secret, help out in any way he can, and I like that dynamic. I actually legitimately like that. So, and on top of that, it's still J. Jonah Jameson. So there are times he still puts his foot in his mouth, but at the end of the day, he's still there to give Peter a helping hand when he needs it, and ultimately, his intentions are genuinely pure. He's not trying to take advantage of Peter. He's not trying to work him to the bone or anything like that. He has no nefarious intentions. He just wants to help Peter in any way he can. And you know what? I dig that. I genuinely like that, and I'm glad that was a development that happened in the comics. So, but yeah, getting back to the story, Peter calls Jonah and lets him know, look, I need you to go to my apartment and get this specific watch. It's on my dresser. Just hurry it up. And Jonah, of course, he got this call while he was still in bed. So this is basically his wake up call. But he does concede to Peter's request because, well, Peter says it's kind of an emergency. So Jonah decides he needs to get to Peter's apartment ASAP. Although when he eventually gets there, he finds that Peter's room is a sty. There's just literally crap all over the floor, and he doesn't even have a dresser. In fact, when Peter said that the watch was on his dresser, he actually meant his bedside table, which I love that when Peter actually hears that's what it's called, it's like, that doesn't sound right. But ultimately, Jonah is able to find the watch, but sadly, on Peter's side of things, he's still getting his ass whooped. Basically, at any point that Peter tries getting some distance between him and Moreland quickly ends up closing that gap because, well, Moreland is very much determined to not let Peter get away this time. Mostly, and as a result of that, he knows he can't leave Peter alone even for a few seconds, because if Peter has any time to himself, he will start planning. And if he plans, he'll be able to think of a way to beat Moreland. So Moreland just decides, I'm just gonna keep beating your ass something fierce until you die, and I'm not gonna stop. It's actually kind of terrifying, as it pretty much just makes Moreland feel like a machine, as he's pretty much just hit his breaking point. He's decided, no games, no quips, no haughts of arrogance. I'm just gonna keep hitting you until you die. That's just, Yeah, it's terrifying. And their battle actually takes them, the battle takes them all over New York. They end up crashing into a construction site with Moreland trying to cave Peter's head in with a jackhammer. Eventually the fight ends up leading them to a mattress store where Peter almost briefly considers staying there because he's still very much fatigued and wants to get some rest, but ultimately is interrupted when Moreland enters. And while Peter is able to distract Moreland by bringing the ceiling down on him and swinging away, again, he's still sustained quite a few injuries, and it's clear he's very much running on fumes. Thankfully, though, Jonah manages to call Peter after he finds the watch, and Peter tells him to meet him in Central Park. Doesn't give him a specific location, just to meet him in Central Park. As such, Jonah ends up heading there, though, and while he complains that he doesn't know if he'll ever find Peter, Peter ends up literally crashing down right in front of him, still very much hurt and just clearly needing a break. As such, Jonah wants to know Peter what they're dealing with, but Peter just says, "We're not dealing with anything, I just need the watch." So he takes the watch from Jonah, and he tells Jonah to just leave, he's got to get out of here, but unfortunately for Peter, Moreland is still right on his tail. And so, before Peter even gets the chance to activate the watch and get the heck out of here, Moreland reaches Peter and breaks his wrist, completely destroying the watch, which is where the comic ends. So, yeah, that's kind of a bad thing. So, alright, so my thoughts on this issue? Good start. Very good start. I'm just going to say this right now. The Spectacular Spider-Man tie-ins to Spider-Geddon don't really have much of a deep or intricate story to them. For the most part, these tie-ins are localized entirely in the main Marvel Universe, and they only really consist of one thing: Peter Parker versus Moreland. And it's a brutal fight. I'll make that clear. There's no real big challenge. There's no real Peter kind of contemplating on his life when facing a superior foe. There's no intricate thing going on in the background that demands Peter's attention. There's no B plots. There's nothing there that really and while there is some kind of conflict in there, ultimately the core of the story is just Spider-Man versus Moreland, and I think it works. Immediately from the outset, we are showcased just how brutal of a battle this is going to be. Not only is Spider-Man going into this already fatigued, since, like I said, he was pulling an all-nighter, but Moreland is an inheritor. Like I said, he's an inheritor versus a Spidey would not go well for the Spider on a good day. And so seeing Moreland here, it's already bad news. But then add on the fact that now Moreland is just driven by blind rage and determination to see Peter dead, and it just makes the whole thing even worse because like I said, Moreland is not giving Peter a second. He's not giving him an inch of leeway. He wants to make sure that he kills this guy, and he wants to make sure he does it right. So he's just going balls to the walls crazy to just try and kill Peter, and immediately it just lets you know that this is not good. There's no reasoning. There's no sense of hope. It's not a battle of good versus evil. It's a battle of survival. This guy is not just going to go into a monologue. The only time that really Moreland talks to Spider-Man is when he just calls him Spider, or saying, "Oh, you're not getting away from me." He's literally just not. He's literally not giving Peter any leeway. And okay, I take that back. He gives him moments of leeway, but that's only when he thinks that Peter really has no avenue of escape. Otherwise, he just does not let up. He just keeps going. And even that moment of leeway only happens one point in the comic after he chucked Peter through a glass window into the mattress store. So it's very much clear that this is a one-sided fight, and it's taking everything that Spidey has just to stay in it long enough to make it to the end. It's very heart-pounding stuff. Again, maybe a problem with this setup is that there's really not much to it. It's literally just literally just this brutal battle. But in my opinion, I think it still works for the comic because while it doesn't have the same multiversal shenanigans that the other tie-ins to Spider-Geddon have, it's still very much a brutal and just from the outset showcasing just how badly this fight is going for Peter, it makes you wonder how he's gonna get out of this. How is he gonna survive this? And even if he does survive it, is he gonna come back completely in one Piece? We don't know, and it works in grabbing your attention and making you want to see how things end. It's simple, to the point, and works well for what it's aiming to do. So, on the whole, Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man number 311 is a good start to these tie-ins. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say. Again, sorry it's not a lot for this issue. It's just kind of very basic, but again, it's still good stuff, and I think it sets the groundwork for what to expect for the other issues of these tie-ins. So, yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. Good start, definitely raises attention. Overall, gonna be a good read. So, till Thursday, I'm Samuel Johnson. I hope you have a good Tuesday, and as always, take care.